Hello and welcome to the June 1st podcast. I am joined today by my brother Connor, co-hosting, and today's guest, Marcus Reynolds, storm chaser from Alabama. Marcus, how's it going, my guy?
It's going all right.
Chasecation thus far. For us, it hasn't been anything too spectacular, but you've been out here, I think, a little longer than we have. So how's it gone for you thus far?
I've been out here since like April 15th. I'm at 13 tornadoes on the year so far, so it's gone. I can't complain about anything, at least.
I think we're at, let's see, I don't know if the one in Kansas the other day, we can really count that.
Can we? Once the reports come in, we can find a definite number.
There's like 3 unfiltered reports, but I know there's at least one. I've seen one picture of it.
I got one on my phone.
I think I have it. I think I have it saved on. It's somewhere in my videos, but I just haven't gone through because the timing lines up from when we were stopped. So
I got it right there.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
then we got it.
No, it was it was confirmed. It was confirmed by a National Weather Service employee about an hour later.
So there we go. All right,
Perfect.
we got one.
We got at least one.
But yeah, it's been lackluster for us thus far. But I mean, one thing I definitely have to ask you about is living out of a van.
Oh my god.
And I imagine there's a lot that goes to it, and like how many different like wild experiences you've had just from like the van itself and just what comes with being like a mobile like living situation, I guess you could say.
It's a thing. Honestly, the living in it part is really easy because it's just like back to basics life. Mm-hmm. It's, you're making easy sandwiches, you're living off of mostly non-perishable foods. You just have a small bed and one stove top, like a little camper stove and stuff like that. And it's very basics living. You don't have anything that you're really, life is simple.
Yeah.
But then it gets really complicated if your van breaks down or anything like that, which has been a problem with me this year. My van has had problem after problem after problem so far this year.
Yeah.
So.
And that's like, it's one thing if it's like your car and you could like get a rental or something like that, or, find an alternative method of transportation. But when it's also your living environment, I imagine that gets pretty rough because it's like, I imagine like if it's something you can't wrench on yourself, you have to take it to a shop.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm staying in a hotel now. Like you can't stay like in your vehicle at the shop, I guess, right?
Yeah, no, I can't. And to be honest, so back on May 4th on the Paducah tornado that I got earlier this year, the tornado actually managed to break not my window, but the window motor.
Oh, okay.
So it broke the plastic. There's a little plastic piece on the linear rail that holds the cable in place, and it broke that off of the rail. So about 10 minutes after the Paducah tornado, my window just dropped. And I did not know what to do, and I needed gas. I had maybe 15, 20 miles worth of gas left in my tank. So I had to punch back through the core of the storm without a driver's side window.
Your whole back is just soaked.
My entire van was soaked because when you're punching north, that RFD is from your driver's side. So and that particular storm had about 80, 90 mile per hour RFD. And it was just a wet RFD too. So and then it had some hail in it. So I was getting hit in the side by hail and 90 mile per hour RFD just coming through my window. It soaked my entire inside of my van all the way from my bed in the very back to my entire dashboard. Everything was covered in red dust from that day as well.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It was
Texas dust.
Yeah. But the window didn't break.
Yeah, it just dropped out. Yeah,
it just dropped. So I actually took my door apart. I took my door apart and I cut the cable, the bottom cable on it because it was stuck in a position where it wouldn't let me pull the window up. Mm-hmm. And for half a month, 3 weeks, I would just pull my window back up with a pair of needle nose pliers and just jam them in the window seal to hold my window up. And I did that for like 3 weeks, and it actually worked really well.
Yeah.
But then...
Got to improvise.
Well, and then, like, second week or third week of May, somewhere in that time frame, my motor blew the spark plug out of itself.
So did it, like, strip the threads that held it in and just, like, blew it up? Wow.
And so if anybody listens to this podcast and is a car person, they know that the Ford Triton 5.4 is known for doing that.
Interesting.
Specifically the 1997 to 2008 edition motors.
Yeah, that generation.
That generation of motors, they switched to aluminum head, and the bolt and the spark plug only has 4 threads of engagement within that head.
Wow,
Whoa,
really?
Yeah.
Fourth, because this is coming from an engineering perspective, but normally you do like 1.5 times your bolt diameter as thread engagement.
Yeah.
And that sounds like 0.2.
Yeah,
with 4 threads.
It's awful, and they I don't know why they decided because honestly, it probably would not have been that big of a problem if they stuck with a steel head.
Yeah,
but they went with an aluminum head, and those motors were known for doing that.
Yeah,
and mine's an 02, so
you're falling right in the middle of that range.
Yeah. So and then actually in 2004 they switched to a weird spark plug. That's a proprietary Ford spark plug that has like an extended, like a 2-inch long extended tip on it that reaches down further in the head. And that it was an attempt to solve that issue.
Yeah.
But it didn't. Not only did it not work, but then that extended tip gets carbon buildup on it. And it gets stuck. And you break off those ends in the motor.
Yeah, wow. And then just falls in and
then
game over.
You have to have no, it doesn't fall in. It literally gets stuck. And they had to build a
so you're not like shearing it straight off. Okay.
Yeah, and they had to build a proprietary extension or extraction tool for those specific spark plugs and that specific Triton for those specific years. Ford, the inventor of their own problems.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Besides van life, I want to get a little bit more into your origin. Storms. How did you fall in love with weather? And I mean, I imagine living in Alabama, that probably has a major factor. But what was the initial spark, or was it just always something that was kind of there?
So it was always something that was there. Back in like 2008 or something, I did Weather Kids with a news with Fox down there, mm-hmm. and like I did a bunch of stuff when I was a little kid. I've always been interested in weather. But the real spark and I think this is for a lot of people actually, is April 27th, 2011. Mm-hmm. Because my house was on the south side of Birmingham, and that's actually initially where that tornado was forecasted to go.
Yep.
Was across the south side of Birmingham. And they actually specifically called out the street that I live on. And then that was about 10, 15 minutes before the tornado made a little bit of a right turn and passed just north of or a left turn, sorry, and passed just north of Birmingham.
Wow.
And that day really it wasn't a spark or anything like that because I already had that spark.
Yeah.
For some reason, since I was a little kid,
yep.
I would always been in, but that really set it in stone for me that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Same thing happened to me with the Western Mass June 1st tornado. Like I witnessed it cross the river. The weather thing had always been there for me, but seeing that tornado, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I was like committed after that. So I feel that.
It's, and then after that, I just did, I became every year in school, I was like my class forecaster, and like, I get made fun of a lot for it too, because I was a little
we all did.
nerd. Yeah. I was a little dweeb back then, and then I'm still a dweeb now, to be fair.
Yeah.
And then, I actually was going to go to college for meteorology I was going to go into SBC as a research forecaster, and that was going to be my excuse for chasing storms was research.
Yeah.
And then I found out how much money college is, and I went, no.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a lot of money. I'm still paying off a lot of student debts right now. So, that's how it goes. But I mean, it's with the way the internet is nowadays, it's like you don't have to like go that route anymore. I feel like to make a living. I mean, yes, that's a grind, but
yeah,
there's plenty of examples out there of people doing the social media thing, not only in chasing, but just like, people that are like adventure travelers and stuff like that. I mean, the internet can be very fruitful in that respect to create a career out of. So,
yeah. And, that was a thing about van life for me, is that it's not only is it a simple and it's a lifestyle that fits what I want to do and all this other stuff, but it's also monetizable.
Yeah, exactly.
Through vlogs and travels and photography and stuff like that. Although I haven't really announced this yet, but I'm actually going to get an apartment. I'm going to actually stop doing van life.
Oh, okay.
I'm probably going to get a Subaru or something like that. And
I love my Subaru.
Yeah. Yeah. So, because you can fold those seats back flat in the back and just throw a bed in there.
Yeah, I've car camped a couple of times in my Crosstrek. I mean, it's not the most comfortable because the Crosstrek is pretty small, but I have a buddy that has a full converted Subaru Outback.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has a full sleeper that he can fully extend his legs.
Yeah.
Like when I sleep in mine, I have to pull the front seat and the passenger seat all the way up and lean the seats forward and sleep kind of on an angle almost. But
how tall are you?
I'm 5'11".
You're 5'11"? See, that would be miserable. I'm 6'2".
Yeah.
That'd be miserable.
Yeah, see,
6'4", right?
Yeah.
6'4".
Yeah, he's 6'4", so it's like that's why we don't sleep in the car during chasecation, because otherwise I totally would do it. But this kid's a freak of nature over here. So, I mean, yeah.
Last year, I spent. Well, it was between two cars, but I spent over 45 days sleeping in cars.
Yeah.
And they were not big cars. They were
I had a Crown Victoria, right?
I had a Ford Taurus, and then I had a Toyota Avalon.
Oh, okay.
I had a Crown Vic, but I only had it for a month before it got totaled in a hit and run.
Yeah, okay. I was going to ask about that actually. What's the story behind that? That was on a chase, right?
So my Ford Taurus, it blew out its transmission back in, I think it was early March. It blew out its transmission. That was a big hit because it's right before tornado season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went and my dad helped me, and we bought a Crown Vic. It was like I think it was an 07 Crown Vic, and we spent way too much money on a car that old. But that was right when that used car market was
bubbled,
blowing up. Yeah, and I had that car for a month, and it was late March, so I guess it was less than a month, and I was on my way back from like just this low-key little summer storm chase, or not summer, it was like
early spring.
Early spring, but it was like pop-up storms. There was no shear, which is weird for March, but there's no shear, just pop-up high cape. Wanted to get some lightning or something like that, which you'd never get in Alabama because storms are always just rain bombs in Alabama. It was like 72 over 84 or 84 over 72, and it was just saturated, one of those tropical air masses.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I was chasing in East Mississippi. There's this little corridor along 45 in Mississippi that is just fields, and that is uncommon for Dixie.
Yeah.
But it's great chase terrain through that. It's like a 30-mile wide strip that goes through Mississippi.
Yeah, okay.
And I had set up my camera. I was doing a time lapse. I was running back to my car, and my tripod head failed, and my camera flew off, and I snapped the lens off of my Nikon. I had a Nikon D7100, and I snapped the lens off of it. It was my 18-55. It was like my middle range. I use this for everything lens.
Yep.
And so I get back in my car, and I'm just furious. I'm driving home, driving responsibly.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going I was going like 65, something like that. And this white sedan, or not, white SUV bumps the back of me going down I-22 in, what is the name of that town? It's outside of Tupelo. I don't know.
I haven't studied
it's outside
my
of Tupelo.
Geography.
Yeah, it's outside of Tupelo. So, and they bumps the back of me, and they keep going. Mm-hmm. And my car does a 180.
Just hydroplanes.
Yeah, hydroplanes does a 180, goes sideways through a light pole, and then down
into the ditch,
about a 20, 30-foot ditch. And it actually folded the frame of the car.
Oh.
And I'm just happy that I'm okay after it.
Yeah.
But, so my parents had to drive all the way up from Birmingham and come pick me up, which it's not too bad of a drive, but they weren't exactly happy. Yeah. So then I was without a car for only like a week, and I found a super cheap Toyota Avalon, like $2,500. And that car had problem after problem after problem after problem after problem for all of Chase and monsoon season that year. Dang. I actually had to cut my monsoon season short that year.
Because of the car?
Because that car, I replaced the wheel bearing in that car about 4 times in the span of like 3 months. Yeah. I don't know what it was, and no mechanic could figure it out. Like, I brought it to my friends a couple times. I brought it to a different mechanic a couple times, and every one of them was like, nah, it's just the wheel bearing. And then...
It doesn't sound like it. Something else is out of alignment.
Just
destroying each wheel
probably,
bearing.
Probably axle ends or something like that.
That sounds
right. And it was just because it would go...
Yeah, it was just...
on the wheel bearing. And it would do that. It would start doing that after about a month after replacing it. Or not even a month. Like 3 weeks after replacing it would start
like
doing
an unreasonable amount of time for it to start failing.
So I had to switch to my... or I had to cut my trip short because of that.
Yeah. And were you able to like limp it back home almost?
Oh yeah. I drove it a long ways on that wheel bearing like that. Like it started doing that like in day 2 of my monsoon trip.
And you're just like,
and I was just dealt with it until I was like, no, this is too bad. This is like, if my car fails now, it's the height of COVID. Or that's not the height of COVID. It's the tail end of COVID, but flights are still a little bit wonky.
Yep.
So getting a flight back home was going to be weird because I didn't have a vaccination card at that point.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So I was like getting back home. I had actually lost my vaccination card in the car accident. So I couldn't. So without that card, like getting a flight home would be difficult from Phoenix. So, I was just like, if this thing breaks down, I don't have a good way to get home. So I was just like, I had to limp it home, and I actually cut my trip short by a whole week.
Yeah.
So I was there, and then the next day, Arizona popped off. The entire time I was out there was like a whole down week. The first day I missed it, was the great day at the Grand Canyon.
Oh.
That was my first day out there, and I missed it. And then after that, I just missed thing after thing after thing after thing after thing. Yeah.
I feel like monsoon can be like that. It's tough to like actually forecast, right? You just kind of have to go after moisture pools, and
that's how you forecast for monsoon, is where you find the moisture where it interacts with terrain.
Oh, okay.
Everything forecasting for monsoon is almost entirely terrain based.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
that makes sense though. Yeah, I don't know anything about monsoon forecasting. That's not because I'm not like a lightning photographer, and I don't go after. I'm not much of a photographer to begin with, so I don't have like the desire to like just go after popcorn storms essentially. But no, I totally get that. And that makes sense. Connor, you have any questions you have boiling up over there?
Are you going to do the like conventional way of storm chasing, where you go out for like a few weeks and then head back to your apartment, or how are you basically just gonna go out through like your staying accommodations and your wait, do we already go through this? I'm so sorry. I'm wicked tired right now.
Oh, you're good. And I get where you're getting at. I will honestly probably still be out here for months at a time. So during the summer, we'll start from like where we are right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to be getting an apartment in Phoenix probably in the next couple of weeks, actually, because it looks like storm season's going to be forecastable. Tornadoes are going to be kind of on the back burner for a while.
Yep.
So probably in a couple of weeks, I'm going to move to Phoenix. I'm going to get a apartment there, and I'm actually this summer I'm running monsoon workshops, a couple of them, and then after that I'm going to move to. Well, I'm going to stay in Phoenix throughout the winter because wintertime out there, you have every once in a while you have a good lightning show out there during the winter. You have those really good cutoff lows that come through Southern Cali, and you can get some really good offshore lightning shows in Southern Cali. So over on the LA and San Diego.
Yeah, and that's not that far of a drive.
It's not. It's only about 4 hours to San Diego. So that's because I lived in Phoenix this last. When I first started van life, I moved to Phoenix for about. I think I was living there for like 2 or 3 months, and I went to LA a couple times, and I went to San Diego a couple times to shoot lightning out there. Neither one of them worked out, but that's chasing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the other thing that happens in Arizona is that you get these winter storms that go through Sedona and Arches National Park and all of these places. And the landscape photography opportunities out there during the off season are incredible. So that's that's why I picked living in Phoenix or living somewhere like that versus living in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, like in OKC.
Because during the off season in OKC, it's just nothing to do.
Yeah.
But living in Phoenix, because the majority of my money for chasing, because this is like my full-time thing, is the majority of my money comes from actually licensing footage.
Right.
So that's that. You have big opportunities out there for stuff like that.
Switching gears a little bit, how long have you been chasing now? Like, when did you first actually start, like, getting behind the wheel and going out to see storms?
I actually hadn't been that long. It's only been, I started chasing in late 2019.
Okay.
So it was like August of 2019. I had moved to Minneapolis, and I was chasing the Northern Plains that year.
Yeah.
And I got the Mora, Minnesota EF0. It was it's technically my first tornado.
Right.
I don't count it as my first tornado because it was such a crappy piece of shit. It was so awful. Actually, my first chase state was Minnesota. Despite living and growing up in Alabama, my first chase state, my first tornado was Minnesota. So
not a bad state to get it done. I mean,
honestly, I hate that state. I hate chasing in Minnesota.
Wow. I mean, I have very limited experience chasing in Minnesota, aka one chase in Minnesota, but I was thoroughly impressed.
Was it a couple days ago?
Yes, it was a couple days ago.
Where were y'all chasing?
We were like southern Minnesota.
Yeah, we were quite south. I think we were
originally we were pretty far north, and we should have stayed far north because we were up by we were
Dawson, I think the city was originally.
Dawson, or
and then we made our way
M1 that we were going towards.
I'm pulling up a map now.
If you say Minneapolis,
no, it is not Minneapolis.
No, it's not Minneapolis. It was.
I'm pulling it up now.
Yeah, it was
Marshall. That's what it was.
No, it wasn't Marshall. It was it was a funky name. Montevideo.
Yes, it was Montevideo first. That was our original target.
That was our original target. Was Montevideo, and I think that's what 30 minutes from Appleton, where that wedge tornado happened.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
and honestly,
and then we dropped south when the Sioux Falls. Then the storm that was going over Sioux Falls, that southern supercell. I was like, that's gonna be the storm, and then it just absolutely flopped once it got into Mini.
So me and John were chasing together, and we busted that entire day. We didn't get on any good storms that entire day because we stuck with that open warm sector.
Yeah,
storms. We just kept betting on them. Looking back on it, awful decision.
Yeah,
like I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know why I thought that was a good decision, but open warm sector storms have not been the thing this year.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like there's always like a trend each year, like which target is best target kind of deal. Like, I mean, like last year, you could look at like the Selden Day, for example, where it was like that boundary storm that was the one that ended up popping off, where everyone else was further south on the dry line. If I'm remembering
it's been every year actually, or like the last 3 years, it's been triple points and warm fronts.
Yeah.
Or if you get outflow boundary that acts like a warm front.
Yeah,
basically.
That was like, I mean, the other day
that was Selden. Yeah, that was the other day in Kansas. Yeah, that was such a weird day.
Yeah. I mean, I remember like we were sitting in northern Oklahoma, like waiting for storms to pop off, and it was like one just started to grab hold, and then like all of a sudden before we it was like struggling for the longest time. And then all of a sudden it just went and just started riding that boundary or whatever.
Yeah, it blew up, and honestly, it didn't look that good for a while. It was like high-based, flat-based, but then that storm moved off, and the storm that produced the tornado and actually wrapped up later was like this updraft on the backside, this little tiny updraft that went up on the backside. We were actually me and John were dropping to the storm, to a different storm. We were in the process of dropping to that storm behind it.
Yeah.
And we turned around and we saw this big bowl in this wall cloud.
Yeah.
And we were just like, all right, we're going.
we almost did the same thing.
We whipped around and we were just like, we got to go after this one.
We were near South Haven, I think. Like we were watching that updraft base. And I was like, okay, this one's shooting to the north. The southern storm, in theory, the southern storm is always usually your better option. So, and I was like watching it for a while, and then we dropped back towards I-35.
Yeah.
And then we decided, I was like, let's just keep going. Let's just keep going. Like, it's rotating. It's looking better and better. And then all of a sudden, it's just like it starts jogging right. And it's like, okay, this is the one.
Yeah, you see the updraft base with the distinct wall cloud after that. And we just immediately like stopped and just like took the video of that from like a random road for like how long? Like 15 minutes before...
No, it wasn't that long. It was maybe like 5 or 10 minutes, somewhere in there. But it wasn't long, and then that's when we dropped back to get on the highway.
Yeah, to go back up north, and we close chased that one.
Yeah, so, hey, well,
it
worked out.
But honestly, that's been the regime this year. Is that it's never the southern storm that goes off.
Yeah.
Back on Elgin, did the same thing.
Yep.
In fact, the only day that the southern storm was the one that latched was Morton.
Yeah.
And Morton was a really funky day anyways.
Yeah.
So, but like Elgin, the Round Rock Granger storm was the northern storm on all of them. And then Elgin went off, and that was like the middle storm that day. In Kansas, 2 days ago was the northern storm.
Yeah.
It's always been the northern storm that can latch onto a boundary versus the southern storm. Yeah. It's been a weird year about that though.
Yeah,
because usually like the regime is that you always play tail end Charlie if you get a line of storms, and this year it's just been stay on the middle one, stay on the northern one.
That's how we've gotten all of our like northeastern tornadoes. It's just like tail end Charlie storms.
Yeah, when in doubt, go south.
Yeah.
They used to be the mantra for us for quite a while until.
Yeah, it was like, all right, just drop to the next thing, get to the next viewpoint. What would you say is your favorite chase, if you have one? If there's like, a day that sticks out to you, whether it's, it doesn't have to be your best one, obviously, but like one that you like reminisce about often.
Okay, so I got two of them.
Okay, shoot.
The first one is Paducah Corral. Of course, because I 0-metered that first tornado, or I got the first tornado, 0-metered the second tornado. The third tornado was this beautiful cone with this backside structure.
Yeah, and the dust too.
Yeah, and the fourth tornado that day was this monster tornado that I got. I got the start of, but then I had to punch north to get gas.
Yeah,
and that ended the day. And then I had that ended the day for me. But that entire day was so well executed. And I usually will never brag on myself like that, but I like that day. I feel like I just played everything perfectly, and that doesn't happen often where things work out and you play them right, and usually I have to make up for my mistakes.
I mean, I feel like that's probably everyone though. Like I feel like everyone has slip ups along the way.
Yeah,
but for everything to go right for once, it's like unique.
That entire day was just that, and then the Morton day was number 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I guess that probably shows how new I am, is that both of them are from this year. But,
yeah.
The Morton day is number 2 only because it's some of my best photography I've ever shot. I screwed up. In fact, I say that I did everything right on Paducah. Chasing wise, I did, but I screwed up my photos on Paducah. So.
Yeah. I've had a couple instances of like having like a really good moment, but like messing up like the camera side of it. One of my favorite chases is actually one of my northeastern chases, which was August 2nd, 2020, where we caught a cyclical LP supercell that produced 4 tornadoes over northwestern Connecticut into Massachusetts, and we caught the first tornado. And like I had one of my cameras on the ground, and I sent the drone up after it, and the drone got the main video. But my camera, like I had it like kind of in a ditch, and I had like a fence just through the middle of the shot as it's touching down. And I was just like, why did I literally could have just put it behind the car and would have had it perfectly. So it was just like, dumb stuff like that I look back, I'm like, why, Ethan? Like I was just so panicked in the moment, freaking out, just trying to set up just because I knew it was about to happen. But yeah, it's stuff like that like you look back and you're like, oh, if I took the extra second to just like, dial in the focus better, change my ISO, it's like
that was my problem, is that so the night before I had been shooting nighttime lightning, and on my Nikon I had been taking a time lapse of it. My Nikon's my time lapse camera.
Yep.
And it's a Nikon D7100, and specifically that camera series, the Nikon crop sensor cameras are awful with ISO performance. Mm-hmm. I mean, just atrocious. So and I normally would never shoot stills with that camera, but on my Sony, I had a 70-100 on it, and I was 500 feet away from the tornado. You can't shoot with that.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to be just getting like dust.
And I have an 18 millimeter, mm-hmm. but I didn't want to swap sensors in the moment, or swap
lenses in the moment
like that.
Because it would get on the sensor.
Yeah. So I pulled my Nikon out, which had a 10-20 on it.
Oh, okay, perfect.
And I almost
just big wide.
I almost didn't fit the tornado in the 10 millimeter. If that
tells you how close you were.
Yeah. So, but what I didn't realize is that I had forgotten to reset my ISO to 100 after shooting the night before. So I was shooting at 1,000 ISO, which doesn't sound that bad. Like 1,000 shouldn't be that big of a problem, but on that specific model camera from Nikon, 1,000 ISO just kills it.
Yeah, it's just all grain.
It's just grainy. And I have denoise software and stuff like that mm-hmm. I'm able to recover the images from, but those are images that I will never put up for print.
Yeah.
Those are good images for thumbnails and for, doing
at a distance
stuff online or small stuff, but I will never, ever put those images up for print.
I feel that.
And that was, the tornado intercept that that was gonna be like the shot of the year type tornado intercept,
Yeah.
And then I just screwed it up. So.
Yeah. That's why, I wish I was somewhat better of a photographer, but I try to just stick with the video side of it. I just, it's easier to just kind of set up a tripod and forget about it. And I set all my, ISO and aperture beforehand. So
I was going to ask, do you shoot manual or do you shoot
for video?
For video. Do you shoot manual settings or do you shoot?
I shoot manual.
Okay.
Yeah. I always leave my video cameras always shooting like at 1/60th for shutter speed, and then I usually just the rest is just aperture and ISO.
Okay, yeah.
So, yeah, because I like leaving. I find because like that 1/60th is like perfect for 30 frames per second. It's not too like jittery looking and it's not too like blurry. So I always leave it at 1/60th for shutter speed. And
I always just leave it at my frame rate. So I shoot at 30 frames per second. I always shoot
1/30th.
1/30th.
Yeah.
Because that keeps for lightning, that keeps rolling shutter.
Yeah. Okay, that's probably why. Because I mean, I didn't even think of that. I mean, I feel like my 90D's done a decent job with lightning. I mean, I haven't tried to like slow anything down too much to the point where rolling shutters like much of an like where you're gonna notice the rolling shutter more.
Yeah,
but
I do that specifically because I pull single frames for thumbnails and stuff.
Oh, that makes sense.
So if I get a good bolt, I'll pull that as the thumbnail.
Yeah, it's all strategy. I get that.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I have to keep that in mind now.
Yeah,
I might try it tomorrow.
Yeah, try it out. What are your plans for chasing tomorrow? Let's talk about the next couple of days coming up.
Let's see. Tomorrow, I think, is going to be somewhere along the Texas-New Mexico border. I mean, right before we started recording, we were talking about the Cap Rock, and so that might be in like a potential. So I might look at that like early tomorrow morning to see what the latest resolution is, because given the latest, like obviously the closer run you get, the more accurate you're going to be. So maybe it'll pop something off there if it, if it keeps, even if it, through the solutions, it's being consistent about putting a moisture pool there, then it's worth checking out. And then, like you said, you can just blast west after if nothing happens and catch the golden hour stuff.
Yeah.
And then what's the day after that? That's like, there's some weird capping stuff going on, if I'm not mistaken.
There is. And honestly, I'm debating going up to Wyoming that day.
Ooh. Oh. Because that's like...
There's some good there might be some good moisture filtering back into Wyoming.
Okay.
According to the NAM, there is. On the HER, it doesn't do it. But the HER is also the HER with moisture. So
yeah. Dry bias, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if there's like 50 dews up in Wyoming, then that's definitely like worth looking at.
Yeah. Go get a lust day.
Oh, man. I could kill for that.
But
yeah, so maybe I'll have to look into that tomorrow morning just to like kind of see what's going on, and then
another thing to think about though is that the wrap for tomorrow doesn't really do much with the Cap Rock, but it pulls 70-degree dews into Roswell.
Oh, okay. Ooh. So
which is like 10 degree. I think it keeps clouds in place and it doesn't mix anything out.
Mm-hmm.
Because in Roswell it's like 70-degree dews and the surface temperature is like 74.
Oh,
versus the HER, which mixes out really bad, to like, I think it mixes down to like 84 over 50 in Roswell. So, but if the wrap is right, like if we wake up in the morning and it's just socked in with clouds over Roswell, honestly, go to Roswell because that's going to keep that mixing down.
Yep.
So if you get better moisture return and less mixing in Roswell, like. Let me pull it up on or I'll do this after actually.
Yeah.
But, like the kinematics across New Mexico tomorrow are wonderful.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Like if we can get something that's not 3,000 foot bases in New Mexico tomorrow with those kinematics, it will be a structured monster. So
yeah, exactly, because the photographs are looking mucho bueno.
Yeah,
for structure. So.
Yeah, and honestly, low key tornado as well. If we can get the thermodynamics like low key tornado as well.
Yeah, keep your LCLs low and pray for some fat thermos and.
Honestly, yeah. I mean, it's the wrap is pulling in like 5,000 cape into Roswell.
Oh, so it's just absolute cape bomb over New Mexico.
Yeah,
not too often you can say that. I feel
like, but also like. Does a wrap have a moist bias? I honestly don't know. I don't know about I know about the HER and I know about the NAM. I don't know anything about the wrap.
I treat the wrap very differently than both the NAM and the HER. The HER or the wrap I kind of just use. I use for like pretty much just overall environment pretty religiously.
Well, yeah, because it's not a cam.
I'll try to find the more, the trends, I guess you could say.
Yeah. So,
for individual storms.
My wrap is my go-to when the HER and the NAM don't agree in any way, shape, or form. My wrap is my go-to for like which way is the wrap going to bias.
Yeah,
like the tiebreaker.
It's like the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have the whole WRF suite. That's like
exactly.
I almost never touch it.
Yeah.
WAFs is great.
I love the WAFs, yeah.
WAFs is great. I'm talking about the FV3 and the NSSL on Pivotal. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't usually go over to Pivotal.
Okay.
I'm COD all the way.
You're a COD?
Yeah. See, I use COD because I think the user interface is way better.
We're not friends anymore.
No, I can't stand, like, I think Pivotal's user interface is like clunky.
No, it absolutely is.
Yeah, so like for me, like I'm a huge optimization guy, and like every time I use it, I just get angry. So I mean, there are definitely a much better suite of products, I'd say, on Pivotal, but for what, like, I mean, I don't use like nitty gritty products all the time. Yeah. I usually just use meat and potatoes. Like I'm just like, give me my 500 millibars, give me my dues, and I'll get the job done.
Very similar to you, I'm a back to basics forecaster, but I'm an advanced back to basics forecaster. So it's like, give me my 500 millibar, give me my dues. Mm-hmm. But I also realize that everything's relative in forecasting.
Yeah.
So like, dues only matter when you know your surface temperature. Because, perfect example, Morton.
Yep.
Surface dues, 55, something like that. But your surface temperature was like 75.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's not like, the spread is not crazy.
It's not awful spreads. Yeah. Like tomorrow in Roswell, 53, 54 degree dews for high plains, not awful.
Yeah.
But with an 85 degree, 90 degree surface temperature, awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then like I think the same way about, wind fields is that I may look at 500 millibar and see that it's only 30 knots and go, it should be a marginal day. But when you get backed winds at the surface, like 30 knot backed winds, suddenly you have 40, 50 knots of shear.
Bulk shear, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then that you end up with stationary storms in that regime.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I don't have to race at, 60 miles an hour to keep up with the storm. So, which I'm always a fan of. I like sitting for a while if I can.
Well, you're from the Northeast, so you're used to it. I mean, I guess so am I, coming from Dixie, though.
Oh yeah. Oh. So I mean, our strategy is since I've been chasing since 2016 in the Northeast, and I've only started chasing the plains the past 2 years. But what we do in the Northeast is I've just been growing a list of locations, of viewing locations, and I'm like, okay, I know which places I can go to that I don't need locations. Like there's a couple of isolated regions, river valleys. In other places that, like mountain ranges, I just completely avoid, if at all possible, unless if I know that there's a mountain pass that I can view from. And then like Herkimer Valley or the Mohawk Valley, Hudson Valley are fantastic because it's all fertile farmlands. So it's like I just chase the farmlands, and it's like I get enough clearings. I mean, still there's a lot of trees, but there's still a lot of open fields that I work with. And I'll just use like the points that I have saved in my Google Maps folder, and just kind of, a lot of times you'll get like storms moving through on like kind of like a front like this, and we'll start at the top, drop south, and then that storm will catch up, drop south, or if we're lucky enough to have an isolated event, we'll just navigate the spaghetti road network and go from there.
Yeah. So I'm a very similar, coming from Dixie. I'm a very
exactly.
similar
it's the same
case.
Idea.
Except Dixie, I almost want to say is worse.
I mean, I can't speak for Dixie because I have never chased Dixie.
Don't.
So yeah, exactly. I feel like with Dixie, you're dealing with a more potent setup.
Yeah,
and the storm motions are being crazy, and you're dealing with like HP supercells.
Yeah, because y'all get a lot of LPs up north, I feel like.
Yeah, it's weird what happens. Like whenever we have tornado days, we obviously don't have like dry line setups, but we have like warm sector supercells. Like that's what happens. Like the June 1st tornado, warm sector supercell. The August 2nd storm that I was just talking about a while ago was warm sector supercell. There's only one like notable outbreak that I can think of that was like a dry line setup.
Yeah.
And that was the 1985 outbreak.
Yeah.
Northeast outbreak, which had like an F5 in Pennsylvania. So
and I feel like y'all storms are more LP most of the time because there's less moisture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're also not awful about storm motions. They're fast, but they're not insane. Usually I feel like I see 40, 50 miles per hour.
Yep, that's about right.
In Dixie,
it's like 75.
It's HP, and it's about 75 mile per hour storm motions are the norm down there.
Yeah.
And then the reason I say that it's worse is because our pine trees down there, are like 80, 90 feet tall.
Oh, yeah.
And throughout most of Alabama, there's not that many hills or anything to get views over them. Yeah. It is just flat forest.
Yeah,
it's very similar to East Texas.
Yeah.
Except East Texas is probably the worst spot to chase.
Yep.
There are some spots that you have overlooks and stuff like that when you get into the Appalachia foothills up in central Alabama, which is actually where I'm from. I'm from Birmingham. So there are some overlooks around there, and then there's a couple spots in Mississippi that are really good. There's the 45 corridor that I told you all about, and it runs basically from Tupelo down to Aliceville, Alabama.
Okay.
And it's 45. That entire corridor has about 30 or 40 miles wide of fields. And then the Mississippi River Delta, which is famous for being like the one spot in Dixie that everybody is willing to chase.
Yeah.
And there's never storms that set up there.
That's interesting because I feel like with the Hudson Valley, for us, it's amazing for chasing storms because it channels the southerly flow. So, and then you get, you'll get like the vorticity stretching when it comes over. Like if you look at like a map of tornadoes that have taken place in the Northeast, like look at like Tornado Archive, you'll notice that like there's a significant, like right before the Hudson River, there's been a number of tornadoes that have gone through the Hudson River Valley because they'll come over the Catskill Mountains. And then there's just like all of a sudden more southerly flow and vorticity stretching happening at the same time. So it's just like boom, tornado.
There's a couple of spots like that down in Dixie.
Yeah.
There's a spot near Jonesboro, Arkansas.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever been officially researched. Actually, this is only speculation from me.
I think there's
a mountain range just through it's called Crowley's Ridge, and it's actually in the Delta. It's a mountain range, or it's a hill range. I can't call it a mountain range. But it channels surface flow. It bends back toward the west, and it channels surface flow back west.
Yeah, so it gives you that backing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool.
And basically right on the north side of that ridge is where the Jonesboro, Arkansas in 2020 happened.
That was an EF3?
It was the EF3. Yeah. It was the big bust in Illinois as well.
Oh.
March 28th.
Yeah. Yep. We almost drove out for that, but like that was like early days pandemic, so then we didn't know what states were like shut down or like whatever the heck was going on, so we decided not to.
Everybody honestly, everybody called it a bust. There was some really pretty LP tornadoes that day.
Yeah,
there was like
I think it was just because
everybody expected big long track monsters, and I'm like,
there was that like one her solution that everyone memeingly posts. Yeah. So,
but they did that same thing, and honestly, I got baited by it. That's why I went for open warm sector on back in Minnesota. Is that the her had all of those. I'm just
like a string of pearls,
warm frontal string of pearls,
which makes no sense.
I like thinking about it. Hindsight 2020. I'm like, when was the last time I saw 80 knots bulk shear perpendicular to a warm front and a string of pearls on it? It just doesn't make sense because any storm that's going to go up along that warm front is just going to get pushed north of it and go elevated.
Yeah.
With that 80 knots of bulk shear.
Yeah.
Just I don't know why that's one of those days where I was just like, I was not thinking straight.
Yeah,
I should have gone down to Kansas. Kansas would have been the best play that day.
I like hindsight 20. Like, I mistakenly booked a hotel before the Nebraska chase, and I booked it for well north. Where did we book it? Watertown, South Dakota.
Yeah, Watertown, South Dakota. That was like 2 miles north of Sioux Falls.
No, that was
that's like an
2
hour
miles,
north of
Sioux Falls. Yeah,
that's an hour north of Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
I remember that because on the Nebraska day, we were betting on South Dakota going off that day.
And
there was just a little bit of cirrus that kept surface temps down. And it just we never had initiation there. We had a storm try and go up, but it got to about 30 dBz and collapsed on itself.
Yep, as they do.
Yeah. So that entire day was that was
a really annoying day because like we're waiting, and it's like, okay, what's going on now? And I had booked the hotel before, and I'm like, oh, it's going on like 7:30, and we have to drive 4 hours to get up to the hotel, and we're driving towards central Nebraska for that Broken Bow.
Yeah,
storm.
Broken Bow, I think it was, or Taylor.
Taylor storm.
Likely remember.
So we were like 10 miles from the Taylor storm, and we're like looking at it. It's getting dark, and it's just like, what are we doing here? Like, yeah, it's putting out like cool hail and stuff, but what am I gonna go look at hail on the ground?
Yeah, it wasn't a particularly photogenic storm, despite being alone and like honestly. You would expect it to be a really pretty storm because it had some sin. It had a good hodograph.
Yeah.
And actually, no, it didn't. It had a very straight line. Like,
wasn't that a 10% day too?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think it was a 5%.
Either way.
I mean, they had I think it was a 5% that was like from Nebraska all the way to North Dakota or all the way to the Canada border.
Oh, okay.
That day.
Okay.
And there was a tornado in Grand Forks, apparently, that day.
Oh, wasn't
with that one isolated supercell that went up in way North Dakota.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about going that instead of going to Nebraska. I never dropped down to the Nebraska storm.
Okay.
I already had my hotel in Brookings, which is it's in between Watertown and Sioux Falls.
Yep. I remember driving by it.
And man, I just like could not be bothered to drive 3 hours south to get like maybe 2 hours of a storm and then drive back up.
Yeah,
I was just those 2 days in South Dakota, you know, after being in at Devil's Tower the day before and chasing through the Badlands the day before that, you know, it was like I was just exhausted. Yeah. So I was just like I was at the end of my rope and I was like, yeah, no, I can't be bothered. I cannot be bothered. And then there were some good storms that actually went up after dark there, up in South Dakota. Mm-hmm. And I didn't get a single bolt from them.
We went through a system of storms on our way up.
We got annihilated by it.
Yeah, we ran into quarter-size hail, and it was going down wicked density of that hail.
Yeah, and I think there was storm damage in Sioux Falls that night too, or from those storms.
Yeah, there were a couple of tornadoes in Sioux Falls that night.
Yeah.
And honestly,
and we were just blasting through it.
Yeah,
we were just we just want to go home and sleep.
Yeah,
or go to the hotel, not home.
Yeah,
we don't live in.
They are South Dakota. They are our homes when we're out here. To be fair,
exactly.
Home. Yeah, for 2 days.
We're sitting in a hotel right now.
Yeah.
That actually reminds me. You're the first in-person guest of the June 1st podcast.
Oh, am I now?
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Do you never record these on the road?
No, this is the first time. I started the podcast back in the fall, I think, and then I took a little bit of a hiatus because I was focusing on doing video essays.
Yeah.
So this is the first podcast back in a couple months, to be honest. So. You're roping us back in. But I was I right before we left, I was like, oh, I should probably bring microphones and stuff because I was like, we're definitely gonna have a down day or two. So
yeah,
I was like, oh, I should rope
in
some people.
Yeah.
And so first in-person guest.
I thought about doing a podcast for the longest time, and I'm just way too busy to do it nowadays.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's I'm trying to find the balance of it all right now. I'm still figuring out how to. So, I'm working full time and I'm trying to do this June 1st stuff on the side to kind of, build it up to something where I can eventually do it full time.
Yeah.
But it's I can't do it right. I just don't feel comfortable doing that with the student loan debt that I have.
Yeah.
Which stinks. But, once I pay that off, I'll feel a lot more comfortable.
I threw away my life and didn't go to college.
Yeah. That's not the case though anymore. It's I feel you can do so many great things without a college education.
No, absolutely.
I'm fortunate to have gone into. I went into mechanical engineering, and I have a great job now. And it's, I've already paid off in a year, in a little little over a year of working full time, I've already paid off like $30,000 in student loan debt. So it's like I'm chipping away at it, and I'll be done in like another like 2 years probably.
I saw somewhere that the starting median pay for broadcast meteorologists was like $45,000. I was like, I can't justify spending $200,000 on college to get a $40,000 a year job on the backside.
Yeah, there was no way I was going to be a broadcast meteorologist.
Yeah,
I would have probably because I was torn between becoming a meteorologist and an engineer. Like when I was a senior.
Yeah, no, I was the same way. I was the exact same way because I build all my own crap. For everything.
Yeah, that's something else I wanted to ask you about is because I loved watching your kind of development of the van, like building, that whole.
I built that in like a week. That was such a
yeah. I was like, wow, he did it all really fast, and it like looks pretty good. I remembered you like staining all the wood and stuff, and I was like, that's pretty sweet. And I was like, kind of having my own like fantasies of doing it to like the back of my Subaru, but.
So I'll be dead honest. It looks good from about 10 feet away.
That's probably why. I'm probably just looking at the pictures.
Yeah, when you get into it, it looks like trash.
Yeah.
It looks
but as long as it's functional.
I threw it. It's just something I threw together.
Yeah.
It's like it's bolted together 1x1s and 2x2s and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like it's nothing.
But it gets the job done.
It gets the job done. And I just,
That's what matters.
Like the staining was like throwing lipstick on a pig. That's honestly what it was. It was like I stained it and lacquered it specifically so that if I spilled water or something on it, it wouldn't.
Yeah, just like stain.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what's really interesting? Like, you're like, of like people I know. Granted, I haven't met you in person until yesterday, but
until what, like 11 p.m.
Yeah, but I was
yesterday?
like watching my roommate in college, my senior year. So this was a little over a year and a half ago now. Bought an E350 and has since converted it, and he's like goes rock climbing. Like he's a huge rock climber.
Yeah.
And hiker. So he's just been like chilling in like
Montana. Yeah.
Yeah, and like Utah, just like going rock climbing and like living his best life. And one of my coworkers got a what's the small Ford van, like the E-Transit or whatever it's called?
The Transit Connect.
Yes. He bought like a 2012 one of those, and he's out there, and he took like a work sabbatical since he had been at the company for so long that he was able to do that, and he's just like doing like biking and like the Rockies and stuff because he's a huge mountain biker.
Those things get great gas mileage.
They do.
They get like 26 miles.
They're so low to the ground, and they got like a pretty decent profile.
I thought about, instead of going with the Subi and getting an apartment, I did think about moving to one of those.
Yep.
And honestly, it's still in the cards. You can tell that I don't ever make actual decisions until like the day of.
And you're like, I'm doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to say spontaneous. I spend a lot of time contemplating stuff, and I never set anything in stone. Because
I'm kind of the same way though.
Yeah.
I kind of like I'm very methodical. Like when I pick something, like I'm like, I know I'm making the right decision because I've researched everything.
I just never pick something until it's like time to actually do it.
Yeah, it's like, all right, Marcus.
Yeah.
Time to make your decision.
Yeah. I will literally be sitting in the Subaru dealership, and I'm going to be like, you know what? I think I'm going to go with the Ford. So I'll just. Yeah. That's honestly how I am, though, is that I don't make any decisions until the moment of.
I will gladly. I praise my little Subaru. My Crosstrek. I was either going to go Toyota RAV4 or Crosstrek. And the reason why I went Crosstrek or Subaru is because they still had a manual transmission option. My Subaru's a 6-speed manual, and I cannot stand automatic transmissions in the winter because they're dumb.
Can we get Subaru as a sponsor at this point?
I would love to. But if, Reed or Aaron J. Jack can't get Subaru as a sponsor, then I don't know what shot I would have at getting Subaru as a sponsor. But there's a lot of people that chase in Subarus.
Yeah, there
Aaron
are.
Rigsby too. Yeah.
Yeah, there's tons of them.
Yeah.
So
Gabe Cox from Tornado Trackers, and I believe Jeff has a Subaru too, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like everyone's got a freaking Subaru. All the cool cats.
Maybe we can say our engineering expertise, just like, hey, we're engineers and this is good quality. Who knows?
I just had my target picked for tomorrow, by the way. John just messaged me. Roswell Rager Day tomorrow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is too is that from Lubbock, Roswell's not too bad of a drive. I don't think it's like a straight shot west, right?
Yeah, it is. It's about 2 hours, something like that.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
wow,
that is a great
I got a second night here at the hotel.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I needed to do like a reset and clean everything out and just like because I had a shameless self promotion for a little second here.
No, go right ahead. I don't care.
I actually just now announced and threw up my monsoon workshops for this year.
Nice.
So I got that done today, and then I'm throwing up a bunch of prints tonight from this season. This chase season, I'm going to throw up my Morton Supercell photos for print. I'm going to throw up a bunch of stuff for print tonight. So we'll see. Hopefully I can actually sell a workshop this time.
I mean, that's the thing. It's just like it's a steady grind. You just got to slowly build your way up. And one step at a time, I guess you could say.
LandandSkyCompany.com.
Yeah, there you go. When we close this out, I was gonna tell you to, throw all your links and places to find stuff. I'm trying to think. What do you have for questions, Connor? Do you have you've been pretty quiet over there.
More. So I was thinking throughout this podcast, considering, of course, you got the van life right now, and you're chasing in your van, I presume, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you adapt your chasing style around the fact that you're chasing with your home, basically?
I don't. Things just get messy real quick. That's honestly, I don't change anything. I would chase the exact same way. The only thing that I have to change is that I have to always make sure that I point my van into or away from the wind. I can't take a side wind in the van. It'll take a wind up to about 100 miles per hour, but anything past that, it will
get dicey.
roll.
Yeah.
It will roll past 100 miles per hour.
That's the thing that there's a lot of people that chase in Jeeps, and I couldn't imagine chasing in a Jeep.
I'm the same way. I honestly think the exact same way because a Jeep is smaller than a van. There's no logistical advantage. There's no logistical advantage to having a Jeep.
Yeah.
When it comes to chasing, I've heard the suspensions in Jeeps just run rough.
Oh yeah, they're garbage.
So,
it's a Jeep. You know, it's not meant to be comfortable.
Yeah, it's not meant to be a travel car.
Yeah,
You're
meant to feel it.
I could never chase in a Jeep because I can actually look right now. I'm at somewhere over 8,500 miles this month alone.
I don't know what we're at probably 5,000 something for this trip, but it takes us
4,000 right now, I think.
Okay, whatever. But, but we've only been out here for a week, so. But that's unfair because it takes us 1,800 miles to get out here. So.
I'm sorry. I hit 10,000 miles in the month of May.
Oh, okay.
Wow. 10,772. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of miles.
So, I couldn't do that in something without a decent suspension in it. I already have health problems because of how much time I spend in my van and how much time I spend driving already. I have an awful. I always joke about this. I sound like a Rice Krispie treat when I get out of bed. When I get out of bed.
I stretch every morning.
I don't.
I stretch because that started because I was a hockey goaltender. I guess I still am, but I don't play. I play men's league now compared to when I used to play more competitively. But I always feel like my hips and stuff getting really tight, so I always do my split stretches and stuff. I can do the splits and stuff still. So I'm pretty happy that I still have flexibility and stuff. So
I would tear something if I tried to do the splits.
Yeah. most people it's probably not recommended, but I've been doing it for so long that
I've never been flexible.
Yeah. I could probably put my hands I put my palms flat, bending straight over without bending my knees.
I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't even touch the ground. But I also have stupidly long legs.
Yeah.
So I'm at a disadvantage. My legs to body is so disproportionate.
I have the same issue.
Yeah. I have ridiculously long legs for how like tall my torso is.
Yeah, I hate tucking in shirts for that reason.
Yeah, I look like a doofus every time I tuck in my shirt.
So every time I go to work and like I have like my collared shirt tucked in, I'm like, I got long legs.
I get asked a lot. I was like, why do you wear your pants so low? I'm like, so that I don't look like an alien.
But to what you were saying, Connor, about driving in a van, like, because for me personally, I feel like there's a lot of people that have like off-roading type rigs almost. I mean, yes, like I get the advantage of it, but I feel like with the amount of highway miles you do, is it really that much more of an advantage?
That's why I have a 2-wheel drive.
Yeah.
The only off-roading thing about the van is that it's higher off the ground, but that's all vans.
Yeah.
And I have BF Goodrich KO2s on it.
Oh, okay.
And those have saved my life a couple of times getting stuck. But to be honest, it's not often that having to off-road or do anything like that comes into play.
Yeah.
It's like 99% of the time you're on decent dirt roads or on highways or like I've never had a moment in the van. Like the one time that I've gotten stuck in the van, it was on a dirt road that was a very well-maintained dirt road, but it was just Kansas dirt road.
Oh yeah,
that where
so
just not just slick, but it's like the mud just sticks to your it like peels up and wraps around your tires. Yeah. It's one of those dirt roads.
Yeah.
That's the only time I've gotten stuck. And even a 4-wheel drive car probably would have gotten stuck there.
Exactly. Like the reason like the Crosstrek in particular I got was because it was the perfect hybrid between a highway car and a car that could get it done in less than ideal road conditions.
Yeah.
So that's why I got it. Like I get, even with that car carrier on top, we're averaging, I think like 30 to 31 miles per gallon. And like when I have the car carrier off of it, it's, averages on the highway probably like 36. And, I can, with the manual transmission too, I can slip the clutch if I need to get out of sticky situations and really torque the wheels. So it's just like that. And all-wheel drive, of course, as well.
I have an automatic transmission. I'm never going to switch away from an automatic transmission. Yeah. I've always had I don't even know how to drive manual. I'm going to get a lot of crap for that, too, in the comments, probably.
But there's a lot of people that don't.
So I always just throw it in low when I'm on dirt roads.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like also with chasing, too, if you're by yourself, it's a lot more difficult with a manual transmission because, you have to, both hands are being occupied and you can't you'll be adjusting a camera simultaneously or something like that.
That's my problem.
Swinging a camera.
I always chase alone.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. That's my
or
point.
in a caravan. I'd never have a second person in the van because I have so much camera crap in the van that I couldn't fit a second person in there.
Yeah, right.
I have both of my camera bags. I have 2 GoPros. I have I have one camera bag sitting on top of, so I keep all of my clothes and crap underneath my bench in the back of the van. And when I'm chasing, I pull one of those storage boxes out and I put it in between my driver's seat and my passenger seat. And I put my camera bag on top of that and open it up. And that's how I grab and go with my cameras, is from there. My second camera bag, my Nikon, sits on my passenger seat. And I just have everything set up. I don't have any room for a second person in that van right now.
I have the big Pelican case, which I store everything in.
Yeah.
But then when it's go time, I set everything up in the front, and I have my little shoulder bag that I keep at my feet. So I have little wells, so I can just lens change. I have it right in front of me. Boom, boom, lens change.
Yeah.
And it's it's all but it's at my feet, and I need to switch clips or something. I just, I can change it out on the fly that.
I'm the exact same way.
Yeah.
I have everything. Optimized. I have everything set up to swap lenses as fast as possible. Honestly, that's why I have multiple camera bodies, is because I keep a wide on one, a tight on another.
That's what I need to, I want to get this is bad because I just got a new camera a year ago, but it's I have my 90D, which is video, and then I have my T5i, which is I use strictly for stills. But this new GoPro setup is new for this year because I just got the Hero 10. So now I have an extra GoPro to work with. So it's all just camera orientation. But I feel like once I optimize everything, like it's going to be a forever work in progress. But hopefully I like to get to a point where it's close.
That's how camera stuff is.
Yeah.
You never finish with camera. Because everything with cameras is so expensive.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. And it's like, I wish part of me, like my most recent, main camera, my 90D, I almost wish I went with a mirrorless body.
Yeah.
How much? I'm just so familiar with DSLRs. I was scared to switch.
No, go with mirrorless.
I think next thing I'm gonna get is a mirrorless.
What are Canon's mirrorless? Because I don't ever
the R's. It's
the R's because I don't ever shoot with Canon. I don't know anything about Canon.
Yeah.
I'm a Sony guy now.
See, I started with Canon, so I'm just married to the lenses, and I don't want to switch.
See, I started with Nikon, but my mom had an old Minolta camera. Mm-hmm. I mean, old Minolta camera.
Yeah.
But
my dad had an old Olympus DSLR body.
So Sony bought Minolta and took their lens mount. So as their A lenses.
Oh, so you have you already have.
So
lenses.
I had a bunch of Sony A lenses, old as shit, but they work.
Glass is glass.
Yeah, glass is glass. If it works, it works.
Yeah.
So when I switched to Sony E, I just got an adapter and went with it.
Do it. That's what I think. I mean, there are the adapters that I can use. That's the thing. That's the other reason why I didn't go to mirrorless is because it's a whole different line of lenses.
Is it? There's not an adapter?
I mean, there is an adapter, but I just didn't want to buy an adapter at the time because I was I had the money set aside to buy a new camera. Yeah. But I didn't have enough to get new lenses or any new glass yet. So that's why I was I'm just going to I need to get a body. And so that was another reason against getting the mirrorless.
So that was my big scare with the Sony. When I got the Sony for a while, I couldn't figure out the lenses situation because I thought that they had bought it and made it the Sony E, not the Sony A. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know that. And other than the adapter, there's no difference between the two. If you have the adapter, it's fine.
Yeah.
But when I first got the adapter, I had a Tamron 18-300. One of those super all-in-one.
Yeah.
If you try and take a still with it, it looks like you're out of focus because it's just absolutely not sharp at all.
Yeah.
One of those crappy lenses. But they're good lenses for most people. Mm-hmm. For when you need quick flexibility, but for fine art and stuff, it's not.
Yeah, it's it's a Swiss Army knife. It's you're not going to have the perfect tool for the job.
Yeah, but that lens, I didn't realize the back element on it was smaller than the rest of the lenses, and it didn't work with the mirrorless full frame.
Oh,
so it
accounts for a crop sensor.
It was the crop sensor back element.
Yes.
So when I tried to put it on the full frame, it was this awful vignetting, and I didn't realize that it was only that lens that I had that was like that. So I had this awful scare for a couple of days there, where I thought that I bought this adapter and none of my lenses were going to work with it.
Oh,
and
dang.
The Sony E lenses are awfully expensive.
Yeah.
As far as not awful lenses go, I just bought the Sigma Art series. Mm-hmm. And it's one lens is $1,500.
Yeah.
So, but I know that Nikon's also awful about that. So, which is why I switched away from Nikon, is because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
Also, they seem subpar. I don't know what it is.
See, I'm not familiar with Nikon, so it's that's the one brand I can't speak on. I mean, I know a little bit more about Sony because I know a couple of my buddies that aren't storm photographers, but they do that kind of stuff, and they have Sony bodies and stuff. So I talk to them a lot about that kind of stuff. We always talk gear because who doesn't love talking? I mean, there's actually probably people that really don't care, but I feel a lot of us.
There's somebody in this podcast that's listening right now going, "Shut up about the cameras. We want to hear about the storms.
Just tell me about the 0 meter."
Yeah. All right, I will. It was fun. It got everything very dusty, and it was done.
Yeah. I think I've asked everything that I wanted to ask. Do you have anything you want to ask?
Well, I don't know about
the June 1st folks.
So what is your job?
What is my job?
I actually don't know this. Yeah.
I'm a mechanical engineer in the defense sector.
In the defense sector, you can't say anything other than that?
Okay. That is the extent that I am willing to say publicly.
Publicly. Okay.
Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah.
I'm in college studying aerospace engineering, focused towards rocketry and potentially controls engineering as well.
You're so smart. I hate y'all.
He's the smart one in the family. He's going into his senior year with a 4.0.
Yeah, I'm an idiot, so I like.
He's going to one of the best engineering schools in the country. So it's like, and I went to a not super well-known engineering school because it was only 10 years old, but whatever.
I mean, you got the well-versed in the mechanical engineering. I got the very high-concept rocketry and control stuff. So.
Yeah, you're going to be working for SpaceX one day, and you're going to be making 6 sheets, living in Cape Canaveral, so.
Yeah, I mean, I seriously hope so because the whole bunch of student loan debt's not going to pay for itself.
Yeah, but you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just got to get myself up.
Yeah, so that's what I do.
No.
It's a great job, and I love what I do and the work that I do, and the people I work with, but it's not what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like I've known that since I've taken the offer. Like I've always wanted to do the Storm thing full time.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of I'm not financially at the point where I have the runway to jump off and do it.
Yeah.
I've been slowly in my savings, I've been slowly building myself up a runway for a year worth of expenses where I can do it all and spend a year full time just building something.
So my suggestion is instead of doing it for a full year, think about when you do storm chasing full time, what would your income be from? If you were going to do storm chasing full time, what would your income be from?
Probably content monetization, probably.
So Patreon,
YouTube, AdSense kind of
because,
stuff.
I mean, I know I'm not supposed to say this for a YouTube video, but YouTube is
it's pretty low.
Yeah, it's kind of
I know all that, but it's just that's why I've been doing I'm trying to do a lot of the engineering stuff on the side as well. And I do video essays and stuff like that. So it's more than just chasing.
Yeah. So it's not just chasing. It's YouTube content just in general doesn't make a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a matter of just building a dedicated base.
Yeah.
So
that's why I always recommend Patreon or something like that, where people that want to support you can support you.
I had a June 1st Patreon when I first made June 1st back in 2018, but then I turned it off because I was like, this doesn't feel right because I had not imposter syndrome. I guess it was imposter syndrome, but it was I don't feel comfortable yet.
Oh, I'm struggling big time with imposter syndrome at this point because I sat down at a table. I was back in South Dakota. It was in Rapid City, and I was sitting at a Perkins that I had slept at the night before in my van, and I just went in the morning to get breakfast, and I was eating and whatnot, and I look over, and it was all of the big landscape photographer storm chasers. It was Justin Sneed and Baca and Rigsby and Baxter and all of them sitting over there, and I looked at them and I looked back and I just got so nervous. Just sitting there, I got nervous to the point to where I didn't even go over and say hi. I literally sent Justin a text and I was like, hey, are you at a Perkins right now in South Dakota? And waited for him to reply yes before I went over there and said hi. That's how bad it was.
I mean, that's just I feel that'd be something I'd do.
And then I sat down at that table and I curled up into a ball and didn't say anything because I was just I'm so far out of my league.
Yeah, but it's I mean, everyone's got to start somewhere, and it's it's just a matter with those people they've just had an earlier start, and it's they were at that point where you are maybe at now. It's just over the years it just adds the experience is going to add up and stuff.
No,
so
I know.
Yeah,
I know it will.
Oh yeah, and it's Yeah, it's that kind of, and the fact that I feel like I've seen like your images and stuff that you turn out, and the fact that you're as far as you are in the 2.5, 3 years that you've been doing this pretty religiously, I mean, is quite the testament, I'd say, to your progress. So dedication.
I picked up an actual DSLR only a year and a half ago.
Yeah, so like that's exactly my point, is that you're, I would say, ahead of the curve.
So that is the
Takes
one
tenacity.
That's the one thing that I pride myself on, is that I can be so single-minded
and stubborn.
Yeah.
In a good way though. Yeah, it's tenacity at the end of the day.
It's being willing to give up everything to do what you want for the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like I mean, in reality, like, you know, I always talk like this van life thing is a great way to live and all this, but it's for me, it is a big sacrifice. And I'm doing
for anyone it would be, I feel like.
It's a huge sacrifice, and I'm doing it specifically because it just fits so well in my lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
And it lets me
and what you want to do for a career.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I'm not doing it because I would prefer to live in a van. I'm doing it because, for at least starting out, it gives me the best opportunity space
the
for
flexibility.
Making content and flexibility and stuff like that. So, like, that's why at this point I'm moving to an apartment, is that I'm getting a little bit more established, and, you know, I'm getting kind of that name out there a little bit more right now. Yeah. So I'm willing to move to an apartment now and settle down and maybe live a semi more normal life. So
on that note, where would people go to find these prints, and what other links do you have available, and like where are all your socials or that kind of stuff?
So I have, my main social is Twitter. Yep. I don't really deal with Instagram or Facebook that much. Twitter is going to be Marcus Reynolds at 19. So some Twitter handle I came up with a long time is some automatic Twitter handle. Yep. When I put in my name, is what it came up with. So it's Marcus Reynolds 19. Reynolds is spelled like Reynolds wrap, like the aluminum foil. Just take the S off the end. And add a 19, so Marcus Reynolds 19.
So I apologize at the beginning for saying Reynolds.
No. It is no. It is Reynolds. It's just for the Twitter handle. Okay. It's Reynolds because Twitter's automatic stupid thing was that
Reynolds number. It's just spelled the same way.
Yeah, and then I have I do have an Instagram, Landed Sky Photography, that I will just throw up photos on every once in a while. When they're done editing. That's basically where you can find my portfolio, is on my Instagram. And I do also have a website for prints and workshops, and also a portfolio. And it's going to be landandskyco.com, LANDANDSKYCO.com. And then I also have a Patreon, and it's just my name. It's going to be Marcus Reynolds, and it's and that's where I have whenever I'm chasing, I put out a forecast. I'm a little bit inconsistent with it right now just because of the problems with the van, and I've just been so busy with so much other crap right now. I'm a little bit inconsistent with it, but I'm getting back into the mode of posting my targets for every day, posting my pictures at the end of the day. You get to see videos and stuff like that. In between a day and a week early, depending on just when I need to get stuff out. Y'all get to see my clips and like short vids and stuff that goes up for licensing, and like those really quick clips and stuff like that.
Yep.
You get those as well there. So there's actually a big content pool on my Patreon when I actually post there. So I just have problems actually making the post there.
Yeah.
And that's just because I did really well early in May, but once my van broke down, it's been a little bit off and on, just remembering to get stuff done on it. But I'm getting back into doing it semi-daily on there now. So
there you go. Awesome. And I'll link everything down below. So people, if you want to find Marcus's links, they'll all be down there. Marcus, it's been a pleasure having you on. I think this is the longest interview we've done. It's like an hour and a half. So
I just sit and chat. I don't
it's a great time.
I just talk a lot.
Yeah, no, it's a great time. I love being able to talk storms, gear, and the whole nine. So thank you for coming out and doing this and being the first ever June 1st in-person podcast guest.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
As we sit in a hotel in Lubbock, Texas.
I love this town, though.
Oh, no, Lubbock's awesome. We explored Texas Tech today and, had ourselves a time.
Did y'all get dinner?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Where'd y'all go?
Blue Sky, was it?
Yeah, some burger place.
Yeah, there's just some burger place.
I saw y'all's.
Tech. It was good.
I saw y'all's conversation on.
Oh yeah,
Twitter
I got way
about
more suggestions than I thought I was.
About McDonald's.
Oh,
so I just went to McDonald's.
Oh, really?
For dinner. Yeah.
Was the ice cream machine?
That was Colton, and the funny thing is Colton has a pre-chase ritual where he always gets a McDonald's ice cream, and he's like, because I'm not sure I don't remember the exact reason for it, but I think he's like seen like 20 something tornadoes every time he's had a McDonald's when he's had a McDonald's ice cream.
I have a couple of superstitions that I do on and off, that I've picked up from other people too.
We do humans being on the way, like when we see the first storm fire off.
Oh, I play. My choice music is always Hank's music.
Oh,
Southern
we have
Backtones.
like Glamorous Adagio.
We have Glamorous Adagio in our playlist.
Yep.
I just have his whole playlist on Spotify.
That's the way to do it.
That I do.
The Southern Backtones.
I just
That's awesome.
So I guess shout out to his music as well because he's incredible.
He's the GOAT.
Oh, yeah,
he is.
Awesome. Well, yeah. Thank you again, Marcus. This has been awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Connor, any closing thoughts?
You basically said it. Thank you very much for getting on here. I'm not sure if we should plug our socials as well.
June 1st. The first is spelt out FIRST.
Yeah, that's how you spell first.
Yeah. Well, so many people write it like my family and friends. Whenever they text me about it, they'll write June and then like one ST, and I'm like, I did it the other way on purpose. So, whatever. It's a small gripe that I have.
Yeah, but I want to say thank you to the viewers for listening to this podcast, and I wish you a wonderful time. So that's about it.
Thank you, everyone, and good night.